Right, well, last time you saw us, we were milling timber. And here you can see some of it's already been jointed by the lads and it's coming on very nicely. But more of that later. We were also doing some concreting, which you may recall, and we built some nice walls. Come and have a look. This old cricket pavilion, wonderful old thing, we're turning into a beautiful weekend retreat. Now the old veranda around it was in a terrible state and slowly collapsing into the ground. We don't want that to happen again. So this time we put a concrete footing in and these dwarf walls. And I rather like this one. We've used bricks, which I managed to, well, I didn't nick them. I took them out of a skip with the owner's permission. And I think they look pretty good. And I do like that idea of doing a bit of recycling.
This is Harry, who along with Simon is prefabricating the substantial timber frame that will straddle the existing building and not only support a new roof, complete with roof deck, but also the verandas, front and rear, with their commanding views over the Kent countryside. The timber they're using all comes from the woods here, and when completed, the traditional style frame will be held together by wooden pegs.
Right, splendid.
I see you run the chisel with the bevel towards you. The bevel uppermost in that cut.
Yeah, for this sort of work, you're using it more or less like a paring chisel, which is traditionally used that way up anyway. I mean, a normal chisel supposedly isn't, but...
Yeah, I always had the bevel at the bottom when I was working, so you didn't get drawn into the grain. But obviously it's...
The problem is with this sort of thing is holding it flat across there, so you get all that wobble.
Oh, it skids off, yeah.
If you use it that way up. The idea is it does
isn't it?
Draw itself in naturally, but it gives you a nice, straight...
Flat finish, yeah.
You can feel it flat, just with the chisel. Really.
Yeah, I can see it, yeah. Beautiful. I mean, isn't this lovely, this chestnut, when it's soft and green like this?
It's, yeah, it's so different to work when it's green.
Yeah. I mean, it looks like butter, but I'm sure it's just because your chisel is so sharp. Whoops.
It'll be fairly sharp, yeah.
I bet it is. Ah! You could shave with that. Well, you could.
These are all virtually antiques anyway.
Yeah.
But for this sort of work, considerably better than anything you'll get in a tool shop these days. Right, that's looking pretty good.
Meanwhile, Bill and Boo, that's Bill in the corset, obviously changed in a hurry this morning, are busy building dwarf walls which sit on concrete footings and on which in turn will sit the timber frame. This end of the building that Harry and I are vandalising will be the washrooms, eventually. I hope.
We were going to put a block along the bottom where we might as well demolish the wall and rebuild it on top of the blocks as to sort of try and underpin, as it were. So hence Harry's taking these walls down. But it shouldn't take very long, and we can reuse some of the studs, which will be nice, and hopefully some of the boarding as well.
Well, the timber framing isn't a one-off project. It actually takes quite a bit of time. In fact, it goes on for weeks. And weeks. And weeks, unfortunately.
Right, that's a number one on there, which we will now put another number one on this jowl here because it's part of the same frame. And these are done so that when you've got a huge pile of timber in kit form at the end of the job, you can fairly easily find which bit you need. And they're done traditionally like this with a chisel, because if you put a pencil mark on and then it rains for a few days, the whole lot's going to wash away and you'd have no idea which bit was which. So that's the face edge of that. So that just gets a one on there as well.
Fairly nice, mindless job. Fiddling around in the sun, doing something off a template. My mind can drift off to other things. With any luck, this will drop straight in that mortise, previously prepared by Simon. Nice and snugly, flush fit to brace the rail that comes that way. which when we've got another one bridging that way out of it makes a lovely traditional feature, quite apart from being a very practical part of the building.
There is no real quick modern way of taking these out. It's actually quite a pleasure working with most of this stuff as well, because as I said earlier, it is green and soft, and it makes it very easy to work comparatively. And oak, once it's properly seasoned, is one of the hardest woods to work in some ways. It's very, very hard and brittle and blunts your tools very quickly.
So, while the guys are busy with the frame, I'm off to acquire a tool that's, believe it or not, vital to the project. What could it be?
Well, one of the great things about living in the country is this. If you can't buy it off the peg, you can quite often have it made. And my mate Eric Lamprell, who's a blacksmith, has made this panel. Now, this isn't what we're after, but just look at the detail in that. And it's fantastic, making flowers out of iron. It's just an incredible job. And the detail's superb. Takes years of practice and self-denial, but it seems to be worth it. What we're looking for today isn't nearly as complicated as this, but it's still very important for the project. It's a peg maker, and without it, we can't go on building houses. So here's Harry's illustration, Eric. 10mm plate with basically a pipe sat on it, and then a chamfer on the top.
What's this actually do? What's its purpose?
You've got your square peg coming in, and we're going to hammer it through this circular hole, and have a nice round peg coming out the bottom.
Oh, I see. So it's critical that that dimension internally has got to have a clearance for the peg to drop.
Absolutely. The extra 4mm will be just about right.
Okay.
And this 4-inch is a bit of a guesstimate, but it looks about right.
Yeah, okay.
And we've used one in the past about that size, and it seemed to work okay.
All right. I'm sure we can do something.
Right, so I see it's nice and cherry red when it comes out, but obviously it dulls off in time.
You mustn't have it too hot, because if you have it too hot, it'll crumple in very quickly. See, I have to go very carefully with it, because if I hit too hard in one area, I won't get the evenness all the way around the tube.
Yeah. You've obviously had a couple of weeks practice at this.
Oh, yes. Well, 28, 30 years from school, left
Really?
school, come into the trade. But there's a lot of blacksmiths that are on the scene now that have come from other sources that call themselves blacksmiths but can't really do the traditional work, as we call it.
Right.
Which is the acanthus work, leaf work, file welding and the likes. But having drifted that into there, I can just gently drift that round. And this will take a bit of time, but you need to get that thin on the edge to give you your cutting edge.
So at the end of the day, how many years did it take you to become a qualified blacksmith?
I don't honestly think you ever become totally qualified, because there's so much to learn and so much to do.
I just find it amazing that with those sort of relatively heavy hammer blows, you can make something that's so smooth and continuous and cylindrical and isn't an oval. I'm sure if I smacked it, it'd be flat.
You're quite welcome to have a go.
You're very kind, which I wouldn't mind. Can I have a go?
You're welcome, yeah.
Thank you very much.
If I put this in, do you want to start dressing it round?
Yeah, I'd love to. I get my chance to be a blacksmith.
Don't grab no lower than that, because the pipe is hot.
bear it
That's
in
why
mind.
we've got a long length to keep the heat
Gotcha.
away, because it's coming up on the inside of the tube.
Gotcha.
So grab where my hand is.
Right. Oh, I see what you mean. It is hot, isn't it?
Yeah. Now if you
Right.
hold it up at an angle,
Yeah.
right, and just dress it round. You're rather strangling the hammer, but we won't talk about that. That's better.
Well,
You've got to get right on the edge and lift your back hand up a bit so you've got the angle coming onto the anvil. And once you've done that, your wrist starts to hurt and you think, why am I doing it?
well. Well, if you had 2 days to spare, a bit of sheet metal, a hammer, an anvil, and all the rest, and of course Eric's skill, you could make a heron like that. Isn't that fantastic? Look at the little eel in its mouth. I'm just so impressed with the ability to make something like that out of just plain metal. Extraordinary, isn't it? Quite a talented lad. Well, here's the peg making machine that Eric produced earlier, and the chaps will be getting lumps of wood and hammering them through that hole, and hopefully they'll be coming out round to the bottom. And those pegs will of course hold the bits of timber together, the joints together, that'll build the new roof that goes over Treetops, our weekend retreat. And without the pegs, the joints wouldn't stay together and the whole building may fall down. So good thing we got it, and it'll save a lot of time and effort in cutting pegs, I can assure you. Hi, Si.
Hi, Mike. How you doing?
Here's your machine.
The responsibility for the plumbing and electrics rests with Robin,
Hi, Robin.
who is busy in what will be, and I stress will be, the bathroom and shower rooms.
Oh, well, this is jolly good fun.
Yes, you may think it fun.
Yeah. Well, I do. Yeah, that way round. Okay.
That's it. You're currently standing in the disabled WC.
Oh, right.
There's a wall coming through
Well,
here.
on top of what is needed for those lucky people staying overnight, there are additional amenities designed to be used by people outside, as it were. And with 3 toilets, a bath, 2 showers and 3 basins all crammed into one end of the building, the plumbing is quite naturally rather complicated. I'm glad Robin seems to know what's going on, and I'm not sure if I do altogether, but then again, I'm not letting on.
And that's the arrangement.
Splendid.
Shower and washroom.
Good.
Things aren't going quite as smoothly as they might do at the moment. Our side of things are all right. We're building away, but we're running out of wood at a rapid rate. We've pretty much built the frame now, but we can't assemble any of it because we haven't got the timber to make the sole plate, which is the grid section we lay all the way around the building on top of our block work. So that has to go down first. Mike's organising it and chasing up the man with the saw machine, but he's got a life too, I'm afraid, and poor old Mike's putting him on the spot. But we might have to try chasing around elsewhere. But everyone's very busy and no one's going to do it just like that.
So, we a little bit of an awkward position. We've got the timber in the bottom of the valley. Unfortunately, Roger with his digger have now moved on to another job, and it's very difficult to get long timbers out of the valley up to the top where we can mill them. So, and also I've got to get Richard to come back and do it. So it's now down to me to do a bit of phoning round and see if I can get somebody to come in and shift it for us. So if you excuse me, that's exactly what I'll do. Bye for now.
Well, this is the solution. For those of you not familiar with this vehicle, it's a Unimog. It's a sort of extremely robust sort of all-terrain truck, or a very fast-moving tractor, depending on how you like to look at it. Well, if I'm totally honest, this probably isn't the easiest route down. But then again, so what? Doesn't have to be. Not in one of these.
Right.
Do that?
Yeah, that'll be fine with me. There we are, it's handled on the inside.
The driver's a man called Warwick Bunn, who's a friend of mine, and whose truck this is, and he's agreed to give me a hand.
There we are, where's he gone? Hi Warwick.
What are you looking at then?
Right, let's have a look through this lot, see if there's anything we can pick from that. God dear, there's a straight one there, but the shaking, it's shocking, isn't it?
Oh,
And
yes.
that fella.
Right,
Yeah, a bit of rot in the end of that one, unfortunately, because it's quite a nice length.
that's no good.
There is some stuff on that bank I noticed earlier that looks
Not
long
bad.
and straight.
Yep,
What do you reckon? We'll have a look at some of that?
that looks better.
Well, as you'd expect, the timber's not in the most accessible of areas. But then again, if it was, we wouldn't need Warwick.
Nice one.
And if we didn't have Warwick, I wouldn't be able to ride in his truck. Well, for those of you who like facts and figures, here they are. This particular Unimog, is a 5.6 litre straight 6 turbo diesel, and it generates 125 brake horsepower. And I used to have an old Lotus Elan, and that was a 1600 and produced the same amount of power. So this thing must have buckets of torque. And it also has a top speed of 59 miles an hour. But believe me, we won't be testing that round here. Not in these woods. Although you can't see it from this side, the old roof that Bill and Boo are dismantling was extensively damaged by fire a couple of years ago.
It's having wooden shingles on there, isn't it?
Is it?
Made out of the cedar trees, I think they are. Hey! Be careful! When you're in that roof, you can't see how burnt it is.
Bill is on borrowed time. His wife is a week overdue with their first child. But for now, he's still here, awaiting that all-important call.
Well, Bill, it's looking a bit rough, isn't it? Let's be absolutely frank about this.
Certainly is, Mike. I think all this needs replacing.
See, the wiring's gone as well, burnt right through. Lost all the insulation. It looks like we're going to have all the rafters off. And that joist
And the
isn't.
ceiling joists.
Yeah. Still, they've done 100 years or something. Probably about time they came off and were replaced.
Yeah. They've
So-
done their time.
Yeah, quite. Never mind. It's only money. Right, well, peg making, that's the name of the game. And here you can see this is the hole where the peg drops through, and on top is the small conical metal cylinder here with a sharpened top edge. And this is how Simon has managed to produce these wonderful cylindrical pegs for the framing. So here Simon's going to demonstrate what a wonderful job he does and how he manages it. And
Right.
over to you, Si.
Right, well first off you need a straight grain square section to bang through the peg maker.
Right, and I see you're cutting at an angle there. Presumably that's to follow the grain.
Just to take it down the grain, yeah, there's a nice straight grain in this piece, it just doesn't run cleanly up the log.
Right. And presumably that looks like chestnut to me.
This one is chestnut, yeah. Mostly
Right.
we're using oak pegs, but so we've run out of straight grained oak from those logs there. We're
Yeah. Bit
back
knotty,
into the,
bit gnarly.
yeah, it really needs to be as good as perfectly straight grain to have
Right.
any chance of doing it.
Okay. And then
So-
so you take a little long cube of
Yeah, first of all
not
we take
cube, I don't know actually what's the technical expression for that shape, but whatever that shape is. And you whack it on top of there.
let's put it on there.
So what's that, about an
Mind
inch
your face.
square, isn't it?
Yeah, a little bit more, 1¼ square, something like that.
Right.
The less waste wood you have, the easier it is to knock them
Right.
through the hole. So
Okay, I'm waiting for this one to come through. And there it is. I see. All right. And what a beautiful peg it is. Absolutely perfect. So that's what, exactly 20 mil?
that will be exactly 20 mil, yeah.
Right. And you'll hammer that into the joints and my goodness, the shear on that would be fantastic, wouldn't it? You need a bit of force to break that away. It's Monday morning, and all right, it is a little damp, but you know, there should be millers milling, there should be labourers labouring, chippies chippying, roofers roofing, and what is there? There's nothing, nobody. It's a little damp, they've all gone home. And look, I've given them a tent. This is perfect. They could be dry under here, nice Jenny in there, be like central heating. And where are they? They've naffed off, the lot of them.
Well, thankfully, Tuesday has brought us somewhat better weather, and we're all hard at work preparing to lay the sole plates, which are the base of the timber frame. As I mentioned earlier, it'll sit on dwarf walls, which in turn are sat on the concrete footings. But first we need to lay a damp-proof course, for obvious reasons. Well, this is a moment of truth, because none of this has been pre-assembled. But these guys are seriously good, and they make it look deceptively easy.
Uh-huh. Round about in the middle of there.
The build begins after all this timber messing about with bits of timber and jointing and everything else. Starts to put it together. Fantastic. So exciting.
Yes.
This is chestnut, as you can see, although we've jointed it into red larch at the end. The reason was we ran out of enough chestnut. It had a lot of shake in it, and there just wasn't enough chestnut to go around. So, because the boards are going to be red larch anyway, we've done the timber that surrounds them, contains them, the sole plates, also in red larch. It's the way it used to be done. You know, when they built houses in ancient days, they just milled whatever timber there was. They didn't go around being purist about it. So why should we? That's my excuse, and I'm sticking to it.
Sorry?
These wonderful joints that they put on this timber have a reputation for being unique to individuals, as in a man would have his own joint and would do it repeatedly throughout his life. And they say that you can judge the age of a building within a generation by the jointing technique that's taken place. These two don't necessarily agree with that, but things have changed over the years.
Just because we copy joints that we find wherever, in whatever farm we think might suit
Yeah, but you get around a lot more than blokes did 500 years ago. One more whack. Yep, perfect. Another brilliant job. What a star. These guys are top. They really are. And this wasn't test fitted. This has just gone together here, bang, for the first time. And to get it that right is remarkable. Beautiful jointing. Well, it's been a bit of a wet and miserable day, but very productive. The sole plates are down. They're the foundation for the frames. Here's the frame. And so next thing we'll be doing is assembling those using these wonderful pegs at long last. What do you think, Will? Looking forward to it? Sleep.